many things, but of course you always wanted to get the characters to develop. I mean, he is rich and lives in a big house, and he's brilliant, and she's this young girl from the suburbs who both admire him and envy him. But after all, when she sees him sort of break down in depression and even try to take his own life, she's also filled with anger. I mean, how could you that have everything do something like this to yourself? So it's so in the first book, she's full of that, you know, change that she, the suburbs girl, is suddenly part of his rich sort of fancy life, even though it's full of demons. But I wanted them to develop and become more equal. And I think they both understand that they need each other. And I think it's also interesting to develop their relationship. I mean, what are they really? Are they living together, yes, or are they partners, or is Rek a father-like figure, or is there some kind of attraction that will explode? So I wanted them to develop, and they both have their own darkness to fight with, and that darkness will cross. And and then you have different ambition with the book. I want to have a good story, and I put the book 20 years back in time, so I also in sort of want to describe the context, the political context of that time. But I think the whole idea started with the strange notion of all these tourist pictures that are taking all over, and I was out walking with a book in my hand, and then I suddenly noticed when a couple from South Asia, took a picture, and I heard a click that I was probably part of the picture. So I thought of myself, maybe I would be in a photo album in Tokyo or something, and maybe people started to wondering who I am, and I thought that was a good beginning of a mystery. You see something in the picture, and then you try to find the person in it. And then, so it was many thoughts, many threads that you want to get together. And he's a brilliant guy, and he's inspired by Sherlock Holmes, Mr. Recke. So I wanted him to have an arch enemy. So I tried to figure out what kind of arch enemy what he has, and then I want the characters to sort of mirror each other. So I wanted her to have sort of an arch enemy as well, and that's her brother. And that's gets it even more complicated, of course. So, and then you try to mold it all up or twist it all up in a book. You have to figure them out, but you have to also go inside them, so, sort of, because if you want to write them trustworthy, you have to put yourself in them, at least a part of yourself in them. You have to understand this girl, or been sort of blocked out from the established Sweden, but want to get in. I mean, her driving force and her thoughts of inferiority, meeting, the fancy word, and also him, this brilliant but very neurotic and a depressed person. So I mean, you get more and more inside, and what you have to do, you have to like them, because otherwise it's difficult to write about them. They have to be part of your family, but they can never be perfect, because perfect persons are boring. They have to have their faults and things, and they have. I've written contemporary novels before, and I see afterwards how quick they get older, because you don't understand your own time. Sadly, you don't know where we are going now. You see very worrying signs all over the world, but you don't really understand your own time. So I think it's better, if you want to see clear what is really going on, to go back. So I thought that was very revealing, and to go back in time when I actually know what will happen. And I think the whole thought of going back also was that I saw my own words so worrying. I mean, now everything goes bad, doesn't it? With the war in Ukraine, of course, and then the political development in the States and all over. So I want to try to go back to the more innocent time. I mean, in my book, Putin, of course, is a mafioso and a bandit, but he's still a hope that he will get close to Europe. So I could describe that development. So every book now I will go slowly to the present times. The third book, I'm just finishing it. It take place in 2008, just after Obama's won the presidential election, and that sadly was a time of hope, that we thought that the world would be a bit sane again. Yeah, I always want to have the political scenery as a background. I will see so it's always everything. Our private life always takes part in the political events. So I always want to do. But I'm desperately interested in politics. So it's this noise in the background, and I try to develop that further in my new books. I mean, that's the hard piece of writing crime fiction, because it's such a competition, and try to hook them and have the cliffhangers and surprise them, because every story sometimes you see has already been written, but what you tried, I mean, and but in the same way, it's the same old story about man and mankind being victim to envy, anger, longing, and grief, and so in many ways it's the same problem, but we have to put it in our own times. But it's a difficult genre, actually. It's you have to think about a lot, and sometimes you think just exactly how the book will go, and then you find out that you will not surprise the readers, because they maybe already understand who was the murderer and who was. So it's tricky, but that's the exciting of the job, to try to write something that you can't put down. So I imagine sometimes that I have small people sitting on my shoulders, and I'm always afraid that these small people will fall asleep because it's boring what I write. So I try to get them to wake up with some tricks or so. Well, first of all, Millennium was such a challenge. I mean, it was. I thought it was very sensitive as well, because many people thought back then that you shouldn't do things like that. So I know that I really put sort of my author's career in jeopardy, because if I would fail, maybe I would fail, as a writer. So it was a lot of tension, and I was scared to death sometimes. But being scared to death is sometimes good. It's a driving force. So in that sense, I really felt that this will make me or break me. But in one sense, it's quite similar. Even though Stieg Larsson invented Mikael Blomkvist and Lisbeth Salander, I had to make them my own. And maybe I invented those characters, Recke and Michaela Vargas, but now they're sort of like Lisbeth Salander and Michael Blomkvist. I have to relate to them, and to be trustful for them, and make them develop. So in many ways, um, I think it's sort of the same. It's always a challenge to write, but I'm so happy that I did it. But I was also relieved, trying to write characters that are more a little more like me. Lisbeth Salander, I love her, but she was a bit too tough sometimes. No, no, no. I don't have that kind of well-planned, intelligent head. You know, I have to finish this book, and then I have a certain view what I will go to. But first of all, every time writing a book, I feel the catastrophe. I will never finish it. It's too difficult. It's messy and it's lousy. And then I work, 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 work. So now I will finish the third, and then I will think thoroughly about the fourth. But I know sort of where I will going in time, and I know sort of what kind of mystery I will write. But that's part of the surprise. Every book, I don't know really what the book will, where the book will turn me, and how what I will end up with. Yes, I have some plan. I don't know if I will do it in between, but I think you develop as an author to shift in genres. I think that's the way how to be a better writer, or it's the challenge. So I have um, I have plans to writing a more self-biographical novel about my life. I've been telling readers and reporters for 20 years now that I will write about my upbringing with my father and my struggle in my early life, but I never do it. But sometimes I will, quite soon, hopefully. I don't know if it's the same for you, because when you're a reader, suddenly you say name four books, and then you get all confused with all the books. But for the moment, so it's always good a book when you have. I'm reading the book who in French is called, who got a Concours Prize 2021, and it's called in French Le plus secrète mémoire de Homme. It's the author Mohammed Massar.
Great
You
book.
know the book, and that I'm reading it now. Sort of, I mean, it's still times for my writing, because it's reminds me of my readings in my youth when I was reading Dostoevsky or whatever. It's such a flow and it's such a mystery story. So I think it's beautiful. For the moment, I haven't finished it. So, and that then I know I can just mention classical books that was important to me, and I often go back to if you talking about crime novels, I I um I read The Name of the Rose of Umberto Eco back now. Is it 15 years or something? And that sort of changed me. That was the first time that I thought of writing crime novels. That I understand that crime novels is a wonderful genre to teach and to tell something about history or the world or the contemporary times. Because when you have a lot of tension and when you have a mystery, people will listen to all kinds of knowledge, and to write exciting novel that you learn so much from without even noticing that you are learning it, because you're just reading the book to get through it. That was a big thing for me. And then I've always I was rereading a book now, because I'm thinking about what's happening in the words, and I'm thinking about all the good people that are actually working for dark regimes and the psychology, what happens. And then I reread Gita Serni's book about Albert Speer. Do you remember that? And that's a study of, maybe, we don't know, a guy just like you and me, Albert Speer, who was, mesmerized of Adolf Hitler's charisma. And suddenly he was probably destined to do decent things, was sort of drawn into the middle of the Nazi regime. That's a book that have been coming back to me. I mean, I can mention so many books, but I have certain books that I go back and reread. I have a book about the Italian writer writing about the time in the fascists, sort of the same theme as Tabucchi, about Claim Pereira. So that's book I mentioned before, but it's a book that I'm coming back to that actually meant and sort of changed what I wanted to do. So and then I'm reading a lot of Swedish literature, who I think is quite great for the moment. We had a book of Andrew Walden called Damn Men, now who got the August Prize this year, about a young kid growing up with a hippie mother. With he had 7 new fathers in 1 year, 7 new men in the family, and it's hilariously fun written.